Let's waste no time and jump into these hands. Most of the hands tonight are going to be short-handed. Short-handed PLO is an absolute blast. I 10 out of 10 recommend, and almost all the hands tonight are 5 or 6-handed. Kicking it off, our first hand of note, we have a pretty nice hand. We have the ace, king, king, 8 with the ace suit. There is a under the gun straddle. We go ahead and make it 35 to go, and the player to my left calls, and the straddle also puts in that call. Flop is whatever. It's ace 7, 6, ace 7 of diamonds. Not super great for our hand. We have the top pair, top kicker, and we want to exercise some pot control. So when the straddler checks, we go ahead and check it as well. And then the button decides he's got a good enough hand to bet. He throws out $55, and the wheels instantly start turning. I'm thinking, ooh, I have that king of diamonds, meaning on any turn diamond, I can go ahead and rep the nuts. Multiple ways to win this pot, and when that's the case, I'm definitely not going anywhere. We go ahead and throw in that call, and then the turn goes ahead and completes our imaginary nut flush draw. I love making the nuts on the turn. Repping them nuts, we go ahead and lead for 75 beans. My opponent doesn't care anything about the nuts and goes ahead and sticks it right in my eyeball. Goes ahead and makes it 250, the most disrespectful size he could make it. Doesn't even pot it. And we go ahead and fold, and we lose a small one here. Alright, so that game breaks, and we move over to the main game, which is also short-handed. We add $300 on. We're in the game for about $800 at this point, and we go ahead and open the button with 10, 4, 6, 7 double suited. Not a bad hand for the button. I mean, we can really open a lot of double suited hands on the button. I like this hand. Why not? Let's gamble. Small blind calls, and then the big blind goes ahead and makes it 65. My initial read is that this is a guy we want to be playing hands with. He's the one guy at the table that still has an alcoholic beverage in his hand, and that's a good sign. So we go in that call, and the small blind gets out of the way, heads up, PLO, double suited hand in position. Thing dreams are made of. The flop is 10, 5, 3 with the 10, 5 of spades. The big blind goes ahead and fires out $75 just at half pot. Yeah, it's right at like 225 behind. And we flopped ourselves a beautiful hand. We have top pair, backdoor diamonds, and the 13 card wrap. That's right. From a 7 to a deuce gives us a straight. That is definitely good enough to stick the money in. My opponent immediately says, I think I'm beat. And you probably are. There's a lot of hands that might be better than mine right now, in theory, but are behind me in equity. After a while, he finally throws the money in, says, do you want to run it twice? I say, nope, I only run it once. And he goes, oh, because you have a set of 10s? I only go one time. I do not have a set of 10s. Turn rips off the beauty, though. A 7 for us. We now have the nut straight, and the river is an 8. We are downgraded, but we still have a straight. I say, straight, and he says, I think me too. As he rolls over, Jack, Jack, 9, 3. God bless him. To make matters worse, as I turn my hand over, he forces the dealer to turn my hand back over. And then he says, I want to know what he's potting with. And he says, top pair and a gut shot. I obviously don't say anything, and it is very apparent that this man will leave this casino tonight with $0. We just hope that we can be the one to get it from him. We go ahead and add on another $500 or $600 in chips so that we cover the man from the last hand. We want to be able to win the maximum in a given situation. This hand starts off almost exactly the same as the last hand, where we open to 15, the button calls, and then the small blind, the same player from the last hand, makes it 65. This time, however, I call, and the button player calls as well. 3 ways to the flop of Jack 8 deuce, rainbow, but we have the double backdoor flush draw. The small blind checks, I check, and then the button bets 130. I'm pretty much done with the hand because we're not quite deep enough to go for these backdoor flush draws. That is until the small blind calls. Now I'm getting a pretty decent price to go for these backdoor draws. Maybe 2 pair is good when we turn the ace or the king, and we can apply a lot of pressure on some good turns. So I do throw in that $130, and the turn is a 4 with no backdoor draw. So it's kind of the worst card because it gives us enough equity to kind of hang ourselves, but doesn't really give us a confident or strong hand. The small blind checks, I check, and then the big blind goes ahead and bets 330. The small blind snap calls him, almost beats him into the pot. And at this point, it's pretty obvious we do not have the best hand, and we go ahead and fold. Then the river goes check, check. The button shows Jack 8 for the winner, and he scoops a nice pot. All right, into the next hand, which in my opinion is a pretty fun one. I'd love to hear how y'all would have played this hand down in the comments. So take a look at this beauty. We have the ace 10 9 4 double suited. Our villain all night is the straddler. There's a 2 limps after him, and then we go ahead and make it 50 from the small blind. The straddler, our villain, and one other player goes ahead and throws in the call, about 160 bucks in the pot, and we go to a beautiful flop of ace king 7 with 2 spades. Flop a little top pair, nut flush draw. Our villain that we've been battling all night is super aggressive and spewy, and for that reason, in game, I decide to check. Again, want to know how y'all would have played this hand in the comments down below, and to my surprise, it checks through. Turn is the 5 of diamonds, and now we go ahead and decide to bet 130, wanting to charge backdoor flush draws, worst pair plus flush draws, things of that nature. And then our villain just goes ahead and rips his stack in there. Then to my surprise, the next player goes ahead and puts it all in, and good luck us. Let's see a spade, shall we? The river is the 9 of diamonds, completing the backdoor flush draw, and we basically are done with the hand. Nobody's super excited to turn their hand over, though.
I have 2 pair.
And I get a little gleaming hope, and I'm like, no way. 2 pair? Good. I say 2 pair. Small blind instantly throws his hand in the muck, but the player after that says, I have pocket 5s. So he turned a set. What's kind of sick is that he kind of turned a 1-outer because he couldn't have hit the 5 of spades, which was not in his hand. So a little bit of run good for him and a little bit of run bad for me. Definitely regretting that flop check, but who knows what would have happened if this situation was avoidable or not. Let me know if I messed this hand up in the comments. We lose about 300 in that hand. We go ahead and add on. We have about 640 in stack, and we're in this game for $2,000. All right, we got to win a hand sooner or else this session is going to go from bad to worse. We go ahead and limp under the gun. The ace-jack 5-7, pretty decent hand, double suited. I have some ill intentions. I like limping hands like this under the gun and then seeing what the table does and playing accordingly. Sometimes we can call and try to flush over flush somebody and make the money there. I also love to sometimes raise it up when it comes back to us. If nobody's showing a lot of aggression, having that ace blocker in the hand is nice. This is one of those times when we limp under the gun, the player next to act makes it 15, the whole table calls, and then it comes back to us, and we're in a prime spot to try and isolate, run this hand against one person. So we pot it up, 90 to go, and only the initial raiser calls, which is pretty ideal. Flop is ace-jack 3, 2 spades and a club, and that's about as good a flop as you can ask for when you're getting a little out of line pre-flop. We flop top 2 with a little backdoor flush draw action. I don't really love the $100 bet, but we do go ahead and throw out $100. Probably should be betting bigger because he's going to already put us on hands that are very strong on this board, and a lot of his range that will continue will be flush draws that would call any bet on the flop. So, however, I digress. Let's not get too in the weeds. He just goes ahead and jams. He doesn't really care at all about if this board might be good for me. And we call it off with top 2 the back door. Turn is a 4. River is the 9 of clubs. We show our hand, and we are good. Finally, we scoop a nice little pot in this session, and can we make a comeback? That's the question. At least we're not going down. Trending in the right direction, one could say. Looking to keep this momentum going, we look down at our next hand. I like to call these the pseudo-good hands. It's the ace, king, queen, 9. It has a dangler, and then it is suited, but it's suited to the king, and the queen is the next suit. Meaning that when we make a spade flush, it's impossible for somebody to have the queen high flush, meaning that we're hoping that they pay us with the jack high flush, and we're also hoping that they don't have the ace of spades. So hands like this can get you in a lot of trouble. The undergun player limps. I go ahead and make it 20, and then the small blind, big blind, and the undergun limper call. Heading off to a flop of ace 5-6 with the ace 6 of spades. So we flop the nut flush draw and a pair. Small blind checks, big blind checks, and then the undergun limper goes ahead and bets pot for 80. My initial gut reaction is to just stick it in, especially how we've been running tonight. But then I remember that there are 2 players behind. We don't want to squeeze them out of worse flushes or pair plus flush draws kind of stuff. And for that reason, I decided to put in the smooth call, hoping maybe one of them will come along. And if we can improve on this hand, it will also improve them, and we can flush over flush, maybe turn some 2 pairs and win a decent sized pot. For that reason, I just call. However, the small blind and big blind fold. Turn is a beauty, making our hand from pretty good to awesome. It's the queen of diamonds. The under the gun player goes ahead and bets 200, and he only has about $100 behind or so. And so obviously there's nothing to do here but put it in. And he is not loving the situation, which is kind of surprising because he only has $100 behind. Eventually, however, he realizes I can't fold with $100 behind, and he puts it in. And then he says, did you turn 2 pair? I did indeed turn 2 pair. And he is already saying he lost the pot, river inconsequential, and he had flopped top 2 on the flop with ace 6. So another pot in the right direction. We pick up a little over a $300 profit there. We are trending. Can we pick up steam? Can we cover the 2K? All right, going into the most fun hand of the night, the brain blender of a hand for the night. We have a beauty, the Jack 10, 9, 7 double suited. There's a straddle on, a couple of limps, and when it comes to me, I am definitely potting this thing up. We're making it 60 to go. The player that beat me with the set of 5s and the button player make the call. Going to a flop, which at the surface level looks not so great for our hand. We have the 7-5-4 rainbow. We have a double backdoor flush draw. I'm pretty much done with the hand. I check. The next player to act checks, and then the button goes ahead and bets $90. Now, the button player is probably the best player in the 1-2 PLO pool at the Wynn. I've played a decent bit of hours with him. He's a grinder, he's a pro, and is a very solid player. We're also pretty effectively deep at this point. We have right at 1,500 in stack to start this hand. 200 in the pot, and he bets 90. We're actually getting a decent price here to go for some back doors. We have a lot of backdoor straights on a lot of turns, and we also can turn some 2 pairs, and we can turn some flush draws. This player's bet, as opposed to a lot of other players' bets in the pool, does not mean he has a straight or a nutted hand here. So for those reasons, I go ahead and throw in the call, and then the player behind me calls as well. Going to a turn, which is a brain blender. It's the 6 of diamonds. It's the one turn card that gives me a gutter but does not give me a 2 pair or a wrap. But it also gives me a backdoor flush draw. So it's kind of like a mixed bag of emotions here. I really wish in game I would have led this turn. I need to slow down and think about my spots a little bit more. I have such a hold'em background and propensity still to just snap check to the aggressor, which in PLO is definitely not so much of a thing. However, I do check, next player act checks, and then the button checks it back. So for those reasons, we can kind of eliminate a lot of really strong hands from his range here, because he would want to be building a pot when we're this deep with the nuts or a nutted hand. River is the jack of clubs, so we river top 2 pairs somehow. And at this point, we have so much showdown. We really just want to check and see what these players have and try and win. I check, the next player that checks, and then the button, good player, goes ahead and fires out $400. Now, on the surface, this seems like a snap fold, but I really can't think of what he is repping. I go back and forth for a while and tank. I almost put the hero cape on here. I really think about it for a long time. Let me know in the comments if you would have put the cape on. The line's not making a ton of sense. The ultimate deciding factor is that this player is very thinking and good, and I would not put it out of his realm to go for value with even a low straight here. Man, maybe he even has the balls to go for value with a set, knowing that we would not check or play straights in this way. I don't know. He can be a sicko at times. He also knows that we're feigning so much weakness that he can fire 400 as a bluff here pretty easily. It's just a very indifferent spot, and for those reasons, I really am leaning towards call, but then I kind of remember that there's a player behind me who is very recreational, and for all I know, just has the low end of the straight, and I'm going to stick in a call for 400 here, and then he's going to be like, oh, I have a straight, I got a call, and then we both just lose, even if I'm right that the button player doesn't have it. We end up folding, and then the player behind snap folds as well. We won't know exactly what button had, but I did talk to him when the table broke, and he said it was a good fold, whatever that means. You can only trust pro poker players in Vegas as far as you can throw them, so take it with a grain of salt. All right, guys, rounding out this session with the last hand of the night. The button pro goes ahead and opens for 15, and we throw in a $50 3-bet bluff with an ace-high suit or ace-high playable hand. We have the ace-5, 7-6, the ace-5 of spades. The big blind goes ahead and cold calls, and then the button calls as well. So we're going 3 ways to this flop, with about 150 in the middle. Flop is queen 8-8 rainbow. Pretty good for a 3-bet range to just c-bet and take it down, which is quite rare in PLO. Do not advocate for this regularly. We fire out a bet of 110, which I think is a little big for what I'm trying to accomplish, but nonetheless, that's what we bet. The player next to act calls, and then the button player gets out of the way and folds. Turn is an offsuit 3. It's a full rainbow board, and I should have realized in game that this player's cold called range pre-flop is going to be pretty narrow, and then on the queen 8-8 full rainbow board, he's just not going to have a lot of hands that are give-ups on this turn. So what I'm about to do is bad. Let's just say how it is. And I go ahead and bet 225, trying to continue to tell the story of what's going on. The player next to act, however, just goes ahead and rips it, pots it all in, and it's pretty apparent that he had a pretty good Broadway hand, more than likely holding 2 queens in this situation, and is trying to get all the money in. We just quickly fold, and we call it a night. The game breaks shortly after this, and we cash out. Take a listen to the outro to see what the damage was on the night. We end up booking the first loss of the vlog. It was inevitable. We were stuck a lot at one point, but we ended up losing about 900, I think exactly 900 on the night. So losing some big flips, not a bad result. It is currently 4 a.m. I worked at 7 a.m. this morning, got off at 4:30. So just know, every vlog, I really am out here grinding. I refuse to sacrifice time with my family, but I also demand success in this vlogging and poker world. So at whatever cost, I'm gonna make it happen. Even if I have to sacrifice sleep to play all night, work all day, edit when I get home, spend time with the family and be a present father, if that's what it takes. If you're still here, I appreciate you watching, and let's see where the journey goes. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.